All right, strap yourselves in because today we're going deep, deep, deep into some pretty wild
Oh
ideas.
yeah, we're talking reality bending stuff.
Yeah, basically imagine like Rick and Morty got really into philosophy and you've kind of stumbled into their interdimensional garage.
Exactly. We're going to unpack some notes that tackle some big questions like what if there are actually infinite versions of ourselves running around?
Okay, hold up. Infinite versions, like a whole multiverse of me's.
Kind of, but it's more like imagine your consciousness as this massive TV with infinite channels, and each channel is a different version of you.
So like on one channel, I'm a rock star. On another, I'm a brilliant scientist. And on another, I'm eating that extra slice of pizza you swore you wouldn't.
Hey, no judgment. My alternate selves can do what they want.
Exactly. And the point is, these aren't separate beings. They're all facets of your one consciousness.
So, how do we tap into these other channels? Do we need like a cosmic remote or something?
The key is awareness. When you become aware of being that other, it's like you've tuned into that frequency. Okay, so it's less about physically transforming into a different me and more about shifting my awareness, my perspective.
Bingo. And this is where it gets really interesting because the sources connect this to the idea of prayer.
Prayer. But not the kneeling and begging kind, right?
Nope, it's more like consciously choosing which you want to be aligning your awareness with the version that already has what you desire.
So instead of praying to win the lottery, I should be like, hey, lottery winner me, what's the winning numbers?
Something like that. The point is, those versions of you already exist within your consciousness, just waiting for you to tap in.
Okay, whoa, my mind is officially blown. All right, so what about changing the past? Is that on the table too?
Well, not in the time travel sense, but think of it more like editing your memories.
Yeah.
The sources suggest that dwelling on past mistakes is basically reliving them, keeping them alive in your now.
So it's like that cringy moment you keep replaying in your head. Why keep hitting replay on that mental blooper reel?
Exactly. And they even share the story about a woman named Mary who basically rewrote the memory of a really bad burn she had.
Wait, so she mentally edited out the pain, the trauma of the experience.
It's like she hit the undo button on that memory and replaced it with a less painful version.
Wow. So if I keep thinking about that time I tripped and fell in front of everyone, I'm actually reinforcing that memory.
You're keeping that blooper alive and well, but the good news is you also have the power to edit it out, or at least change the narrative.
Okay, so it's less about erasing the past and more about choosing how we frame it, how we let it affect our present.
Exactly. It's like choosing to focus on the lessons learned rather than the pain of the fall.
This all ties into the whole love versus fear thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of the sources quotes William Blake, "He who will not live by love must be subdued by fear." Pretty intense stuff.
Yeah, they paint fear as this sneaky gremlin that starts in your body, then infects your mind, creating this loop of negativity.
So instead of trying to fight each anxious thought, it's more about shifting our overall vibe from fear to love.
Exactly. It's like trading in that doom and gloom playlist for something a little more upbeat and empowering.
Speaking of empowering, they also talk about this I am the creator. Meditation sounds pretty intense.
It's all about tuning out the external noise and tapping into your pure, unfiltered inner power.
And they're realistic about it, saying fear might pop up, but it's all good. No judgment, just awareness.
Exactly. The trick is to spot that fear gremlin and choose to swap it out for something more positive.
So it's less about silencing the fear and more about acknowledging it than consciously choosing a different feeling.
You got it. And they also talk about that inner critic we all know and loathe, the one that's always whispering, you're not good enough, you'll never succeed.
Ugh, yeah, that voice can be a real buzzkill.
But instead of trying to silence it, which is like arguing with a toddler, you got to own that voice
Wait, what? So I shouldn't be trying to shut it up.
by accepting that the inner critic is part of you. You're taking back its power.
So instead of pretending it's not there, I'm basically saying, all right, little voice, I hear you, but I'm choosing to focus on this other awesome thing instead.
Precisely. You're in the driver's seat, not your inner critic.
Interesting. Okay, so we're talking about mastering our inner world, rewriting the past, choosing love over fear. It's a lot to process.
And we're just getting started. These notes get even wilder from here. Buckle up.
All right, I'm ready. Bring on the mind-bending insights.
Let's talk about desire. And I don't mean like wanting a new pair of shoes. I'm talking about that deep, soul-stirring kind of desire that fuels real change.
Okay, so like that feeling when you know you're meant for something bigger, something more.
Exactly. And one of the sources talks about how just wanting stuff for the sake of it doesn't lead to lasting transformation.
It's like trying to fill a void with things instead of figuring out what's actually missing.
They actually use this analogy of pouring new wine into old wineskins. You need a fresh container, a new thirst for experiences that truly light you up.
So it's not about just wanting things, but about finding desires that resonate with our core,
Yeah.
the stuff that makes us want to level up.
You got it. It's about uncovering those desires that make you think, yeah, that's the me I want to be. That's the life I want to live.
Speaking of leveling up, one of the sources mentions this I, heart, and tree insignia. It sounds kind of like something out of Rick and Morty.
Turns out it's all about becoming aware of what you're conscious of and accepting it as true, which ties back to the whole idea of self as the ultimate manifesting tool.
Wait, so if I'm constantly thinking about how unlucky I am, I'm actually manifesting more bad luck.
It's like you're putting in an order to the universe and saying, hey, send me more of that same energy, please.
So I should be focusing on what I do want, not what I don't want.
Bingo. And they even share Neville's advice on sparking creative thoughts. It all boils down to assuming your desired end result is already a done deal and living as if it's true.
Okay, so instead of I hope I write a best-selling novel, it's my book signing is going to be packed with fans.
Exactly. Feel that success, own that best-selling author energy, and let the universe handle the details.
Right, universe consider me an author, then they go all biblical on us with this Isaac, Esau, and Jacob thing.
Don't worry, no Sunday school here. They use Isaac to represent the subjective world, Esau the objective world, and Jacob your own subjective desire.
Okay, so if Isaac is my inner world and Esau is the outer world, then Jacob is me wanting to travel the world.
Sure, or whatever your heart desires.
Mhm.
The point is, it's about entering into the image of your desire, making it real in your mind, and then layering on those feelings the belief that it's already yours.
So I'm not just picturing myself on a beach in Bali. I'm feeling the sand between my toes. I'm smelling the salt air. I'm hearing the waves crash.
You're not just observing it, you're experiencing it.
Wow. Okay. And they tell this amazing story about a guy who went from feeling discriminated against to loaning out millions.
It's a perfect example of how shifting your inner state can lead to massive external change. He literally went from feeling like a victim to embodying the energy of abundance.
Okay, that's inspiring. But part of me is still skeptical. Like, did he have some secret stash of money or something?
They addressed that, saying it was his inner transformation, his belief system that did the heavy lifting.
So it's less about what you have and more about what you believe.
You got it. It all comes down to your central habitual state of consciousness.
Okay, say that 3 times fast.
It's basically your default mental setting. Are you tuned into the worried and stressed channel, or are you vibing on the confident and creative frequency?
I think I might need to adjust my dial a bit.
We all do. The important thing is to be aware of what channel you're on and choose to switch to a better one if you need to.
So it's like recognizing those negative thought patterns and choosing to replace them with more empowering ones.
They even link this to desire, saying that falling head over heels for an idea is what fuels its manifestation.
So it's not just about passively wishing for things. It's about being so passionate about an idea that it becomes a reality.
Exactly. It's about feeling the excitement, the energy of that desire, and letting it propel you forward.
This reminds me of that "Blessed are the poor" in spirit line from the Bible. Sounds kind of depressing, honestly.
They actually give it a cool twist, saying it's not about being materially poor, but about being poor in the sense of being dissatisfied with your current reality and absolutely craving change.
So it's like that feeling of, I know there's something more out there and I'm not settling for anything less.
Bingo, it's that hunger, that drive that pushes you to break free from limitations and step into your full potential.
All right, hold on to your hats, folks, because things are about to get even weirder. They're talking about inner penetration, and I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
No need to blush. It's actually about the interconnectedness of everything they're saying, that everything penetrates our brains, meaning we have access to any place, any experience through the power of imagination.
Wait, so I can mentally visit Paris or swim with dolphins just by using my imagination?
In a way, yes. One of the sources even tells a story about mentally visiting Barbados and how it led to an actual trip.
So our imagination isn't just some fantasy land. It's a powerful tool for shaping our reality.
They even talk about manifesting an honorable discharge from the army despite initial disapproval.
Talk about defying the odds. So it's about assuming your desired outcome as a fact and refusing to budge from that belief.
They describe it as an unstoppable force once that inner knowing takes root.
Wow. Okay, so no more wishy-washy hoping it's about that this is happening, period kind of conviction.
Then they tell this other story about manifesting a trip to Barbados, but this time it's during a freezing winter night.
Sounds like someone needed a dose of sunshine and warm weather.
This story emphasizes that even unconscious acts of imagination can shape our reality. It's like your mind is always working behind the scenes, so you might as well feed it some juicy, desirable scenarios.
So even when I'm not actively trying to manifest, my mind is still creating my reality.
Exactly. It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Okay, so mind blown yet again. But what about all those little details? Like, how do we actually make things happen? Do we need a step-by-step plan?
They use this ladder analogy saying there's always someone playing the role you need to climb to the next rung, even if they have no clue they're part of your journey.
So instead of trying to micromanage every detail, I should just focus on the end goal and trust that the right people, the right circumstances will appear.
It's about surrendering to the flow of life, knowing that everything is working out in its own perfect timing.
That's a nice thought. But what about when things go wrong, like really wrong? Do we just blame ourselves for not manifesting hard enough?
That's where things get a little tricky because they talk about this sleep paralysis experience and how facing fear head on can literally make it disappear.
Okay, sleep paralysis is terrifying.
Oh.
I'm not sure I could just will that away.
They describe it as a conscious choice to stop being afraid, like literally choosing to shift their internal state from fear to courage.
And it worked?
The menacing figure that was tormenting them literally shrunk and vanished.
Whoa, okay, that's some serious mind over matter stuff. So our thoughts really do have power, even in the most terrifying situations.
And to help us navigate this inner landscape, they introduce the concepts of the inner man and the outer man.
So like a cosmic superhero duo?
Kinda. They describe the inner man as the dreamer, the creator, the ultimate source of our power.
And the outer man is like our everyday self, the one dealing with bills and laundry.
Exactly. The outer man often feels limited, subject to the whims of the external world. But the truth is, we're always the inner man, even when we're caught up in those external dramas.
So it's like remembering who's really in charge here, the inner man, the one who can literally dream reality into being.
And for the inner man, everything exists in the N now W past and future aren't separate compartments. They're all happening simultaneously in the eternal present moment of imagination.
Time is an illusion. Mind blown yet again. So if everything is already happening in the NW, how do we tap into that and start manifesting the life we want?
They call it subjective appropriation, which means claiming your desire as already fulfilled in this eternal NOW of your imagination.
So it's not I'll be happy when. It's I am happy now.
You got it. You're not waiting for happiness to arrive. You're choosing to experience it in this very moment.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. But what about when those doubts creep in? Like, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm not good enough?
They're big on unconditional thinking, which is basically accepting your desires as already fulfilled, no ifs, ands, or buts.
So it's not about hoping or wishing. It's about knowing, believing with every fiber of your being that what you want is already yours.
And they even tell this story about manifesting a trip back to America when it seemed totally impossible.
So they pulled a cosmic Houdini.
You could say that. It's a perfect example of how this works. They describe it as a twofold process. You do your part by enacting the scene in your imagination, and then the universe steps in and makes it happen in the 3D world.
So I create the movie in my mind,
Yeah.
and the universe provides the special effects.
Exactly. It's a collaborative effort between your inner world and the outer world. You're the director, and the universe is the production crew.
I like that analogy. And they also talk about prayer not as begging and pleading, but as communion with yourself, recognizing that the power you're praying to is actually within you all along.
They even quote John's first letter. If we believe that he hears us in whatever we ask of him, we know that we have already obtained the request made of him.
So it's not about convincing some external deity to give us what we want, but about recognizing that we already have it within ourselves.
That's the radical shift in perspective they're talking about. It's about recognizing the divine within the infinite power of our own imagination.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this connects. It's not about manipulating the outside world. It's about transforming our inner world and then watching that transformation reflect back to us.
Exactly. It's like cleaning your mental mirror so you can see yourself and the world more clearly.
And they also talk about judging the state, not the individual.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of that story about the guy who helped the beggar by imagining him as gainfully employed.
It's a beautiful example of how our thoughts and beliefs can influence the world around us. We're all interconnected, and our mental states have a ripple effect on everything and everyone we encounter.
So instead of giving a handout, he gave a mental gift, a gift that had the power to change the beggar's entire reality.
They emphasize the power of mental gifts. It's about empowering others by helping them shift their own internal reality.
This is blowing my mind wide open. It's like we've been given these incredible tools, but no one ever taught us how to use them.
The sources are basically saying, hey, wake up, you're a freaking magician. Stop playing small and start creating the reality you desire.
And to really drive that point home, they remind us that we're not just a collection of states, we're pure, unadulterated imagination.
We often get so caught up in identifying with our current state, whether it's happy, sad, successful, or lost, that we forget our true nature as infinite possibility.
So it's not about trying to fix or change our current state, but about recognizing that we're so much bigger than any state we could ever experience.
Exactly. It's like saying, I'm not just the wave, I'm the whole frickin' ocean.
Okay, my mind is officially surfing that cosmic ocean. But before I drift too far out, let's bring this back to something actionable. What's the key takeaway here? How do we actually put this man is all imagination thing into practice?
They go deep on the meaning of I am explaining, that it represents God, our eternal and unchanging being.
So it's not just a way of identifying ourselves, it's a statement of our divine nature.
And they tie this to faith in our own imagination as the key to pleasing God, which is basically saying, trust yourself, believe in your power to create and watch the magic unfold.
Okay, I'm feeling the magic, but I'm also feeling a bit overwhelmed. So there's so much potential here, but I'm not sure where to start.
Well, one of the sources lays out a super clear 5-step guide.
Hit me with those steps.
First, recognize that the outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If you don't like what you see, don't try to change the mirror, change yourself.
Got it. What's next?
Stop trying to change the reflection directly. Instead, focus your energy on transforming your inner reality, thoughts, feelings, beliefs. That's where the real magic happens.
So instead of trying to manipulate the outside world, I should be focusing on creating the internal conditions that will naturally attract what I desire.
You got it. It's about becoming a vibrational match for the reality you want to experience.
Okay, step 3.
Take responsibility for your inner critic, and those negative thoughts, don't try to fight them, just acknowledge them and choose to focus on something more empowering.
So it's not about silencing the inner critic, but about choosing not to give it the microphone.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're the DJ of your own mind. You get to choose the soundtrack.
All right, what's step 4?
Embrace the power of assumption. Assume you already have what you desire. Feel it, believe it, live it in your imagination.
So fake it till you make it, but with feeling.
That's the key. It's not about pretending. It's about embodying the feeling of having your desire fulfilled.
Okay, and the final step.
Boldly imagine and feel yourself in that desired state. No limitations, no fear, just pure, unadulterated joy and fulfillment.
No holding back.
Yeah.
Got it. These steps sound powerful, but what about when fear shows up and tries to sabotage everything?
They encourage us to be bold in our feeling just as we are in our thinking. Don't just think big, feel big.
So fear is basically us rejecting the very things we desire. It's like saying, I want this, but I'm too scared to actually have it.
And they offer a 4-step process for overcoming those fear blocks.
Lay it on me.
First, identify that deep desire that's lighting you up.
Might check.
Then, boldly imagine and feel, having it let yourself fully experience the joy of that desire fulfilled.
Next.
Recognize that fear is self-created. It's not some external monster. It's a thought, a feeling, a belief that you're choosing to hold on to.
So I'm the one creating the fear, not the other way around.
And finally, reclaim your power to feel what you want in your own personal reality. You're the architect, the director, the creator. You call the shots.
So if I want to feel joyful, abundant, loved, I don't need to wait for external circumstances to change. I can choose to feel those things right now.
That's the radical truth they're pointing to. Your feelings are your own, and you have the power to choose them.
All right, we're back. And I got to say, my mind is still reeling from all those mind-bending concepts.
It's a lot to unpack, right? We've been through the philosophical ringer.
Yeah, it's like we took a crash course in reality creation, but how do we actually apply all of this to our everyday lives?
Well, one of the things the sources emphasize is the importance of communing with the heart.
Okay, so like getting in touch with our feelings.
Yeah, but it's more than that. It's about recognizing that true prayer isn't about begging some external force for stuff, but about connecting with the deepest part of yourself.
So instead of, dear universe, please grant me $1 million, it's more like, hey, inner wisdom, how do I tap into that abundance?
Exactly. And the sources suggest that prayer is really about claiming what you desire as already yours on a deep, intuitive level.
This reminds me of that quote from John's first letter about knowing we've already received what we've asked for if we truly believe.
It's a powerful reminder that belief isn't just some intellectual concept. It's a visceral, embodied experience. When you truly believe something, you feel it in every cell of your being.
So belief is key, but how do we cultivate that kind of rock-solid faith when our external reality seems to be telling a different story?
One of the things they talk about is focusing on the state, not the individual.
Wait, rewind. What does that even mean?
It's about recognizing that people's actions are often a reflection of their internal state, not necessarily who they truly are.
So instead of judging someone for their behavior, I should try to understand the underlying state that's driving it.
Exactly. It's about having compassion, recognizing that we're all just doing the best we can with the awareness we have in any given moment.
This reminds me of that story they shared about the guy who helped the beggar by imagining him as gainfully employed.
Yeah, instead of giving a material handout, he gave a mental gift, a gift that had the power to transform the beggar's reality.
So it's like instead of giving someone a fish, teach them to fish. But in this case, it's more like imagine yourself catching fish and the fate will come.
It's a beautiful example of the power of mental gifts and the interconnectedness of everything.
Wow. Okay. So our thoughts really do have a ripple effect on the world around us.
And the most fundamental piece of this whole puzzle is the idea that man is all imagination.
Hold on. Did you just say man is all imagination? Are we living in the Matrix or something?
Not exactly. It's more about recognizing that imagination is the source of everything we experience. Our physical reality is a manifestation of our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings.
So it's not that the physical world isn't real, it's that it's a product of our imagination.
Exactly. And we often get so caught up in identifying with our current state that we forget our true nature as pure, limitless imagination.
So it's not about trying to fix or change our current state,
Yeah.
but about recognizing that we're so much bigger than any state we could ever experience.
It's like saying, I'm not just the wave, I'm the whole freaking ocean.
Okay, my mind is officially blown again.
Yeah.
So how do we actually put this man is all imagination thing into practice?
They suggest focusing on the deeper meaning of I am explaining that it represents God, our eternal and unchanging being.
So it's not just a way of identifying ourselves, it's a statement of our divine nature.
Exactly. And they connect this to having faith in our own imagination as the key to pleasing God, which is basically saying, trust yourself, believe in your power to create and watch the magic unfold.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling the magic, but I'm also feeling a bit overwhelmed. Like, where do I even begin with all of this?
Well, they offer this really helpful 5-step guide for putting it all into action.
Okay, I'm all ears, lay it on me.
First, recognize that the outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If you don't like what you see, don't try to change the mirror. Change yourself.
Makes sense. What's next?
Stop trying to change the reflection directly. Instead, focus your energy on transforming your inner reality, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs. That's where the real power lies.
So it's not about manipulating the external world, but
Yeah.
about creating the internal conditions that will naturally attract what I desire.
Exactly. It's about becoming a vibrational match for the reality you want to experience.
Okay, what's step 3?
Take responsibility for your inner critic. And those negative thoughts, don't try to fight them. Just acknowledge them and choose to focus on something more empowering.
So it's not about silencing the inner critic, but about choosing not to give it the microphone.
Precisely. You're in charge of your mental soundtrack.
Okay, what's step 4?
Embrace the power of assumption. Assume you already have what you desire. Feel it. Believe it. Live it in your imagination.
So fake it till you make it, but with feeling.
That's the key. It's not about pretending. It's about embodying the feeling of having your desire fulfilled.
Got it. And finally, step 5.
Boldly imagine and feel yourself in that desired state. No limitations, no fear, just pure, unadulterated joy and fulfillment.
Okay, that sounds amazing. But what about when fear shows up and tries to sabotage everything?
They encourage us to be bold in our feeling just as we are in our thinking.
So don't just think big, feel big.
Exactly. Don't let fear stop you from experiencing the fullness of what you desire.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about the power of my own mind.
And that's the whole point, right? To empower you to create the life you truly desire.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the realms of consciousness. I hope you're leaving feeling inspired and ready to tap into your own infinite potential.
Remember, you are the dreamer of your own life, so dream big, dream bold, and never stop believing in the magic of your own imagination.